pedophile Jeffrey Epstein's autopsy has been performed, but details are being kept quiet. Coming from New York, the details of how Jeffrey Epstein died and of how the pedophile Jeffrey Epstein died in his Manhattan jail cell over the weekend have yet to be released, but medical officials have performed an autopsy on the high-profile inmate accused of sexually assaulting underage girls. Epstein's abrupt death Saturday cut short a criminal prosecution that could have pulled back the curtain on the inner workings of a high-flying financier with connections to celebrities and presidents of one squatter. Though prosecutors have vowed to continue investigating, Epstein, who was 66, had been denied bail and faced up to 45 years behind bars on federal sex trafficking and conspiracy charges unsealed last month. He had pleaded not guilty and was awaiting trial. New York City's chief medical examiner, Dr. Barbara Sampson, said in a statement that the autopsy on how Epstein was performed Sunday. She did not release a determination, saying it was pending further info. Sampson said a federal prosecutor was aware that she allowed a private pathologist, Dr. Michael Baden, to observe the examination at the request of Epstein's lawyers. This is routine practice, she said. Baden was the city's chief medical examiner in the late 1970s and has been called as an expert witness in many high-profile cases, including the O.J. Simpson trial. A longtime pathologist said it's not unusual that Sampson didn't release a cause of death after performing Epstein's autopsy. They don't want to jump to any conclusion or rush to judgment, said Dr. Joe Cohen, who worked at the New York City Medical Examiner's Office in the 90s and is now in private practice in California. The manner in which Epstein died remains a mystery, but guards on his unit were working extreme overtime shifts to make up for staffing shortages the morning of his suicide. A person familiar with the jail's operations told the Associated Press. The person said that the Metropolitan Correctional Center, which is where Epstein was being held at, special housing unit was staffed with one guard working a 5 straight day of overtime, and another who was working mandatory overtime. The person wasn't authorized to discuss the jail operations publicly and spoke Sunday on the condition of anonymity. Epstein had been placed on suicide watch after he was found a little over 2 weeks ago with a bruise on his neck, according to the person familiar with the matter, but he was taken off the watch at the end of July and therefore wasn't on it at the time of his death, the person said. Epstein's removal by suicide watch would have to been approved by the warden of the jail and the facility's chief psychologist, said Jack Johnson, a former prison official who worked for the Bureau of Prisons for more than 2 years. For 20 last pages of documents were released that were related to a since-settled lawsuit against Epstein's ex-girlfriend by Virginia Giuffre. If I'm saying that wrong, I don't know. One of his accusers. The records contain graphic allegations against the pedophile Epstein, as well as the transcript of a 2016 deposition of the pedophile Epstein, in which he repeatedly refused to answer questions to avoid incriminating himself. Epstein's July 6 arrest drew national attention, particularly focusing on a deal that allowed him to plead guilty in guilty in 2008 to soliciting a minor for prostitution in Florida, and avoided more serious federal charges. His lawyers maintained that the new charges in New York were covered up by the 2008 plea deal, and that Epstein hadn't had any illicit contact with underage girls since serving his 13-month sentence in Florida. Technically he did, because they were claiming he did, and more than likely that's what he probably did when he was there. The federal investigation into the allegations remain ongoing, said U.S. Attorney Jeffrey Berman said. He noted in a statement Saturday that the indictment against the pedophile Epstein includes a conspiracy charge, suggesting others could face charges in the case. U.S. authorities have said the pedophile Epstein had also had a residence in Paris, France, and used a fake Australian passport to travel to France in the 1980s. The French government called for prosecutors to open an investigation into the pedophile Epstein's links in France, with the Secretaries of State for Women's Rights and Protecting Children releasing a statement Monday. The statement said it was fundamental to launch an investigation into France so that the pedophile Epstein's death doesn't deprive the victims of the justice they deserve and to protect the girls from this kind of perpetrator. The people in Paris and the people in the Paris prosecutor's office did not immediately respond to any comments. But yeah.